Hello, everyone. It was reported today that an Iranian general was killed, assassinated, and I don't know if it happened today or if it was on a previous date. But the name of the general was Qasem Soleimani. I don't know a lot about him personally. I just saw that Elizabeth Warren posted something on Facebook saying like, "Oh, he's not a good guy, but we should like not be more deeply involved in conflicts in the Middle East," which I agree with. She's not calling it an assassination like Bernie is, so I guess that's not really, he does go a step further. Um, but yeah, I mean, so now we're sending troops to the Middle East. The number being reported is 3,500. Yeah, and it's very suspicious and kind of up in the air, I would say, right now because we don't know, where these troops are going. As I'll say, it's not really clear. But so this is from Washington Post. The Pentagon said Friday afternoon that it will deploy an additional 3,500 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division to the Middle East to bolster security in the region. The forces will join a battalion of about 750 soldiers from the division that arrived in Kuwait on Thursday, said a defense official. A defense official speaking anonymously on condition of due to the sensitivity of the issue. The soldiers are with the division's Ready Brigade, a unit that is trained and prepared to deploy on short notice. Defense officials said Thursday that the remainder of the brigade was ordered to prepare for deployment, but it wasn't clear then if they would do so. So yeah, it's basically what they're describing here is like people are on the front line, like as if like World War III is like about to start. This is kind of what they're describing, and so I'm assuming that means they're kind of like in the surrounding countries. I even saw that picture Michael Moore posted. It's kind of an old picture, I think, but it's like see all the U.S. bases around Iran, and it's like, wow, why did they put their country so close to all of our military bases? Yeah, because this is really U.S. empire type stuff that, you know, obviously we have a history with that, but I just don't know that it's quite been this brazen in terms of just lashing out at a country where it seems like this is just like a way overreaction and just kind of like it's based on this idea that like Iran is our mortal enemy, and so it's like an existential fight. And the point I'm making is like there's not even an attempt at a explanation for like why this is very important for our national security. It's like with Iraq, they had this elaborate story about how Iraq was um, helping Al Qaeda. They had nuclear weapons, so on. So it's like I don't think anyone in their right mind actually thinks that like Iran's gonna attack the U.S. I mean, like, and certainly it's like we're making it worse. We're making the chances of that happening. It's becoming more tense. So before Trump, it was you know, much more likely that we were going to be, on better terms with Iran because of the Iran deal, as I'll get into. But yeah, it's like it was working. We were in a better place where we could verify through the IAEA, which is a organization that basically they go in there and look at the nuclear plants in Iran because they are allowed to have nuclear power for their power grid, but they can't enrich uranium to a certain point, and like the scientists and experts verify this. We know that they were in accordance with the deal. So it's been documented that it's been working. And the right wingers, they use these talking points where it's like, oh, we gave them money, but like we were sanctioning them, and these are like assets that were in the U.S. already that we froze because our relationship with Iran, was really started to become problematic. Um, in the late 70s. We had in the 50s did a CIA coup where we removed this democratically elected leader, excuse me, who was trying to nationalize the oil industry in Iran, and so we put in this dictator that was going to be um, more sympathetic to like corporate interests in getting that oil, so that the Iranian people wouldn't benefit from their oil. So yeah, I mean, like that's the really nitty gritty history of it that's kind of like led to this point. There's obviously been a lot of things in between now, um, but yeah, because with Trump, it was the opposite direction from where we were with Obama because we had the Iran deal. Trump took us out. We started sanctioning them more. We started sanctioning medicine that people in Iran that have died because they couldn't get medicine. And we're actually like attacking their entire economy, basically trying to cripple their economy and their ability to do business with U.S. allies, like in Europe and that kind of thing. So the whole point is like to destabilize the country so much that the people rise up and overthrow the government. But the thing is, though, the UN, sorry, not good at talking today. The UN International Court deemed it was human rights violation, and the U.S. withdrew from the court as a result of that. I forgot who the UN ambassador was at the time, but it could have. I don't know if it was John Bolton or someone else. Regardless, you know, the assumption of American exceptionalism now is just assumed in mainstream discourse. It's just like we can get away with whatever we want, as if like some other country could openly deny human rights. I mean, like Saudi Arabia does it, I guess, but like we're allies with them, so like we give them that credibility, I guess. It's just like though when Iran attacked a Saudi oil field and no one was killed, like that was deemed like an offensive attack, and like we had to send troops there to protect these oil fields. So it's like if another country did what we do, like it would be game set and match. We would be already be in World War III now, like for sure. Um, but there's just this assumption that like we have a a good agenda. So it just really makes no sense. I mean, how at this point, there's no reason why we should be sending troops for to try and go after Iran because as it's been pointed out, like this is not through Congress either. Um, and a lot of people, yeah, they'll probably debate the legality of that too. It's like, oh, Trump is the commander in chief; he can send troops wherever he wants. Well, I mean, according to the laws that have been passed, the War Powers Act, like, yeah, you have to go through Congress, and um, the precedents, have been broken. Obviously, I mean, um, Obama was taking us to a lot of different countries under like the same authorization from 9/11 and so forth. But I mean, yeah, like that is actually kind of what I wanted to get to. It's like the assumption that we can just carry out these assassinations, we can do whatever we want, send troops, send drones to bomb and spy on people, and so it's quagmire after quagmire in whatever country you're in. You know, I do have to criticize Obama a little bit, and I understand that like Trump is way bad and way worse, but he had a chance to kind of curtail these mechanisms in play, and in fact, he really expanded the drone program, and things were getting worse because I mean, for the first time, a U.S. citizen was killed via drone attack under him. It was like a 16-year-old American boy who was killed, and then basically the whole line of thinking afterwards was he should have had a better father. That's like what some general said. I don't know if it was Petraeus, but regardless, you know, this is kind of like, you know, you're opening Pandora's box, and you have a chance to close it before something bad, really bad happens, and then you just don't. I mean, because I think this is kind of what Edward Snowden referred to as turnkey tyranny, because it's like you can have these tools and things at your disposal, like as president, the amount of power that you have to send troops, you know, home, and send them abroad. Yeah. So like, and again, yeah, with the technology and drones, but like, you know, you trust someone else with that because they have a D in front of their name or an R in front of their name if you're a conservative. So ultimately, someone's going to come in there and, you know, they're going to make decisions in terms of foreign policy that you don't agree with. So it becomes, I guess, a difficult question, excuse me, about like how you deal with this in terms of electorally with the public. I mean, I would tend to say most people are pretty much in agreement, though, to end the wars. Um, at least in the sense, like, you know, because a lot of people go really far and be like, oh, we have to like get rid of the military, or like cut it in half. I honestly think like, yeah, you could probably cut the military down, maybe not in half, but um, you know, most people think, yeah, it's wasteful what we're doing, so it should it should be a bipartisan thing to say, you know, like I want to bring more American troops home so they don't have to needlessly die, and that could be a strong argument that you make. Like I want us to use our resources smartly. So, um, yeah, it's like you could go that route if you want to, or like with what Bernie does, I think he makes it more about like a moral question. Like, you know, this is we're destabilizing and causing more harm to people. So yeah, like it really matters how you kind of frame these things. And I'll get into that. I'm a little bit ahead of myself today. But yeah, so like, you know, Trump should not have pulled out of the Iran deal. So of course that kind of was a tipping point. It really, that's, you know, in one way where I can say, yeah, Hillary would have been a little better. And I, you know, I don't like to defend Hillary. I really, it goes against my nature to do that. But um, yeah, if she were president, she would not have backed out of the Iran deal. I'm pretty certain about that. You know, despite even her um, kind of blunderous policy in Syria with the no-fly zone, and I didn't like that. Like, you know, for sheer, you know, just the fact that Obama did the Iran deal, he got it, so she would not have sullied that legacy. So yeah, I mean, elections matter at the end of the day. Let's leave it at that. But you know, like, yeah, like, so I'm saying, like, this is why foreign policy needs to be a primary focus, and Bernie's taking charge, making addresses to the people as if like he's already president. Honestly, it's like he's just like pronouncing what he wants to say, and I, you know, it's very impactful. It's not just like that he's out there blowharding. I think like he is trying to offer some leadership, or offer some kind of sense of understanding of what's going on, because people are probably scared about what is going to happen now in the future going forward. It's like this has become a meme now. World War III, over like all in one day now. I guess it was kind of a meme before, but like now it's like trending like crazy. Like, um, yeah, like people want to laugh at it, but like, um, if things are going to turn bad, there has to be someone who's taking it seriously, and like I don't think any of the other candidates are nearly as serious as Bernie, to be honest. You know, like I know that they like to talk in like their flowery rhetoric, but you know, outside of, you know, a debate stage where they're just basically being standard politicians, it's just a clown show to me. And Bernie does, you know, the legwork outside of those kind of performance type things, you know. So you know, there is something to consider. Like Trump is, you know, using this as an opportunity, as a power grab. Like, and I don't mean to say like super conspiratorial, like, because I don't even. I guess we have to kind of see how it's reported, like how this assassination, happened, and what was the what kind of led to that. But after impeachment happens, it makes sense to me where it's like, if there's the slightest chance that he's going to be perceived as a stronger leader, like I think Trump will take that chance. Um, and so I guess we'll see what happens. But I think I'm expecting Trump is gonna tweet something crazy probably tomorrow, because like he usually tweets like early in the morning, and it's gonna be some kind of thing to kind of wrap up this World War III meme, if you will, like because he's online, he's on Twitter, he has to kind of see things that are happening now online with this. So the thing is, I don't know if it's going to be just some kind of funny thing to laugh at, or is what he says on Twitter going to hold some weight and actually be like a serious threat, kind of akin to what Trump was doing with Kim Jong Un back in the day. Like he was kind of like cyberbullying him on Twitter. And then after that, they became friends, so it was fine. But and so to kind of tie up those two things, North Korea and Iran, it's like, to me, Trump, he has no principles. It's just like anti-Obamaism, I think, because as I've said, I have criticisms of Obama and everything, like not just foreign policy, but um, with I'm sorry, with Trump, it comes down to Obama got the Iran deal, so like that must be bad. I have to destroy his legacy and then build my own. So he's like, North Korea tops that. And people talk about, yeah, it's like, oh, we're gonna enter into a new deal with Iran, but like this is a little bit ridiculous. I mean, like to think that you're not in a good position now, where you have like a strong relationship with them. You've like treated them horribly, so they're not gonna want to listen to you now, Trump. So like it's just, he wants to be remembered as a strong president, and so that's why this like impeachment, obviously is looming over him, and that's kind of like that really rained on his parade. Um, so he wants to, he's remembered, wants to be as like someone who gets things done, and that's like, I feel like that's very neoliberal in nature. He's just a kind of a technocrat who thinks like, oh, I'm gonna like kind of like pull these levers here and there, and then like it'll look like I know what I'm doing, basically. Um, and so I think the only difference is like he like entertains the white nationalist, rhetoric and racism. That he embraces that more brazenly. Um, so, and actually on that note, it's like you could bring up him pardoning a convicted war criminal. Trump, he convict Edward Gallagher was pardoned, and he I believe the thing he was specifically convicted on, because he was acquitted on like most of the charges, but it was because he killed this ISIS fighter, or who knows who he was. He was just some guy on a stretcher, um, and then like he just take out a knife and start stabbing him, and then they took a picture, and like he posed with the corpse, and so like he was actually charged with the posing of the corpse. It's like you're bragging about it, so it's, again, it's like this symbolic kind of nature to things. I think turns people off of politics, where it's like, yeah, like you're not even gonna go after him for actually killing the dude. It's like the bragging of it, that like, oh, like that, if you had just killed him. So I get like, yeah, you shouldn't maybe take it that literally, but just when it gets down to that symbolic nature, I think in the legal system that turns people off anyways. So yeah, Trump pardons the guy, even though he's convicted. As I said, I mean, like, yeah, you pardon someone who's been convicted, yeah, but then like, this is someone that you want to be associated with Trump. It's like, this ends up being reflective of our American values. Um, and to kind of shift gears again here, it's like, I think a big problem with the centrists is that they think that like the same political rules as 1990 apply, and it's like, yeah, like the past has informed what has happened now. It's like these neoliberal policies led to the rise of Trump. So in that sense, they're connected, sure. But in the reality we live in now, it's a ideological polarization. There's a lot of great moments and things in America you could point to, like the civil rights movement. Go down the list. But there's a lot of negative things, a lot of racism, um, corruption, especially going back to probably like the early '80s is when that really started to kick in. So there's a lot of things that we can't deny exist, and like it's kind of baked into the system. Like part of the reason that I think like 2016 surprised so many people is because it was a lot of people didn't realize how racism was so prevalent, but also a lot of people were just willing to do basically whatever to change the system. Um, and so, meaning, yeah, like a lot of people that there was clearly a lot of racist Trump supporters, but I think that there's a lot of people who also probably like somehow like just decided to overlook that or deny that, which you shouldn't make excuses for that, of course, but they're trying to say like I'll do anything just to make a change because like I don't think Hillary represented that, and Trump was a faux populist. He was not actually delivering on that change that he was running on. It was a smart strategic decision. Um, so yeah, like I'm saying, like the rhetoric and the position that you take, how you frame it's very important. So I think Bernie has the right ingredients for everything. It's that's why, like, if you talk about Bernie versus Warren, their policies probably are not all that different. I mean, like, yeah, that there are. If you look at Medicare for all, like her transition is not quite the same as Bernie's. It's not quite as bold and not quite as aggressive. College for all, same thing. I mean, like his is much more universal than hers. But it's like, yeah, they're generally in the same ballpark. But yeah, it's like I think that the way that you communicate to the people matters, and like your justification really. It's like Warren. I get the sense from Warren where it's like she just kind of wants to outwonk the system. It's like, oh, if I get them on this like little technical thing, like I can get the progressive policy. But Bernie, I like how he's kind of like by all means necessary approach, where he's just like, no, I want to fight for the best version of what this is. I want to fight for the version that will help the most people, no questions asked. So I think that's inspiring to people, and he's rising in the polls. So I guess more power to him. I would like to, yeah, I would like to see a lot of people, including myself, like go out and do more to help him win and keep that momentum going. And so, in the meantime, with the craziness that's going on in the Trump administration, I mean, including impeachment, I hear now that like they're introducing new articles of impeachment. I have to take a look at what's going on with that. But yeah, there's a lot of craziness going on in the midst of the 2020 primary. Um, I think just remember that there's really just one candidate who I think is really taking things seriously and addressing it in a way that will inspire people to inspire the non-voter population of this country to finally um, like believe that there's a true chance at change. I think Bernie inspires that in people. I hope that's the case at least.